Imagine if you could go back to playing career mode at a time where you didn't know who all the good players were, when you thought you could sign a player from absolutely anywhere, and when it seemed like every team was brand new to you. Well, what if I told you that's exactly what you can do inside FC26, and all you have to do is press this single option before starting your save. That is right, women's football is everything that I've just said and more. EA has put a lot of effort into making women's football pretty different from the men's game, and while most of the menus in career mode are still the same, the players, the teams, the leagues are all very different, and that can be the catalyst to having an absolutely amazing FIFA save. Of course, EA hasn't made an entirely new game mode. What you'll be playing is still definitely career mode. However, like I said, you can actually sign a player from absolutely anywhere, and it does make sense. The women's game is absolutely bonkers when it comes to transfers. Some teams will all of a sudden decide to spend £1 million, which is a lot of money for the women's game, and be able to buy one of the best players from PSG out of absolutely nowhere. The team that actually did this most recently was, of course, the London City Lionesses, who you might realise aren't connected to any of the teams in the men's game. That's because quite a few of the teams are now starting to become their own unique thing. This team got promoted from the second division this year, and in the transfer window, they decided to spend £1.5 million on Grace Gayoro. They've also signed a former Manchester United captain, a Barcelona defender, an England attacker, and Lyon's best midfielder. Now imagine that happening in the men's game. A promoted club like Sunderland going out and buying Vitinha, Bruno Fernandes, Corentin Tolisso, Pau Kabasi and Benjamin Sesko. It really is a place where anything can happen, which makes every single career mode a lot more fun. Like I said before, you probably also won't know who most of the best players in the game are. Like, if I asked you which one of these three players has the most potential, Clara Seriordi, Albacano, or Aicha Kamara. There is a small chance you'll know the answer, but I doubt most people will know it's actually Clara, and that gives you a totally new environment where you can discover a totally new database of really good footballers. I have noticed that a lot of people like to sign the exact same players in every single career mode save. I'm sure it's very fun to always have Rio Ungamoa playing on your right wing, but sometimes you do need to switch up the players you're using. And it's really fun to build squads with these new players. You'll see different names in your academy too, you'll win new competitions and learn about a completely different style of football where technique is king and physicality doesn't really mean anything. But of course, every good career mode save needs a good career mode team. And there are some really fun options again this year. The Spanish League has the two best teams in the entire world, Barcelona and Real Madrid, but also the two worst in the entire game, Alhama and Logroño. Could you build them up to be as good as Barcelona? Well, that would be a really crazy challenge. In Germany, you have one of the most successful East German men's football team of all time, Carl Zeiss Jena, who've actually only ever been in a couple of other FIFA games as a men's team. They're in here as a women's team, and that makes them a totally unique challenge. As the worst team in the German division, you can try and match their 3 championship titles and 9 runners-up awards that they achieved in men's football between 1963 and 1981. And in England, there are of course the London City Lionesses. They're a bit like Real Madrid, PSG, Man City and Chelsea all merged together into one really wealthy team. They broke the worldwide transfer record this year as a newly promoted team on Gayoro, but they're still quite a way off matching Arsenal and Chelsea when it comes to fighting for titles. Maybe you could try and build a London-based Galactico side with a team that's owned by a female Asian billionaire. There are currently only 5 leagues in the game: England, Germany, France, the USA and Spain. So it really isn't too hard to just look through these teams and try and find your own cool storylines. Don't just take those as the only 3 good teams, because there's at least a dozen, maybe even up to 20 really good teams that you should use in your next career mode save over here. They're all fully licensed in their divisions and clubs, they've all got really good face scans, which is more than most men's leagues can actually say. It is a shame there aren't a few more, because second divisions in all of these leagues would make things better in career mode, or a few other leagues like Sweden, Denmark and Australia would be good to have too. These are all divisions where some really good players have come through over the past couple of years in the women's side of football. There's also international management, which is available in men's and women's football on this game, which again is very different if you're used to playing the men's game. For example, Argentina go from being probably the second best team in the men's to the worst national team in the women's, worse than Finland and Iceland, while the USA are battling England and Spain to be the best in the entire world. I couldn't finish this video without also mentioning the Women's Champions League, which again is a really interesting thing that I think is better than the men's version. It's very even at the top, but with the way the women's attributes are laid out, it also makes the competition really hard to win. The best women in the world are absolutely amazing. You'll know them if you've ever played Ultimate Team. The likes of Bonmati, Diani, Sophia Smith are all absolutely unreal to play with. But the tier below are substantially worse, and then when you get a tier below that, you're talking about 10 to 15 points of overall difference, which is a light year when it comes to playing FIFA. That means that unless you've somehow built the best team in the world, you really do feel like you're playing against teams who are on a totally new level. I think we should finish this video by talking about the gameplay differences as well, because this is the main reason that I actually decided to give women's football a go at all. Sure, it's fun to build squads with new players and see new names in your academy, but why would you do that if the gameplay's worse? But I don't think it is. It's slower already, even before you change modes from authentic to regular gameplay, and it's more technical too. That means that you can get really small players who are like 150 centimeters or 4'11", and they can be playable, whereas in the men's game, of course, they would be absolutely awful. I'm not sure if this difference in the style fully reflects how different real-life women's football is, but in FC 26, the players move and run differently, and it definitely does feel different to men's football. Of course, you are still playing FC 26, but with so many women's players having agility ratings in the 90s, the game feels more responsive and less like a constant physical battle, which can occasionally happen in the men's game. It's actually quite hard to explain how gameplay works beyond that. I really do recommend you give it a go, but things like strength don't seem as important, stamina seems borderline useless, but you could probably build a team of really tall, physically dominant women and then just bully other teams. The way that you can either go for physicality, or you can go for agility, or possession, or counter-attack, or pace, or whatever you like, does also mean there are a few tactical differences when it comes to playing women's football too. Because the game is generally more slow and more technical, you can actually play true possession football, unlike the counter-attacking style that most people still call possession play when they're doing regular career mode saves. Long ball tactics are also effective. If you can find someone who's 6'3" in your academy, let's say, put them up front, and they will dominate the majority of centre backs who are going to be about 5'7" or about 20 centimeters smaller than them on average. More tactical variety can only be a good thing, and I think that's the best part about playing women's career mode. So hopefully in the last 7.5 minutes, I've given you a pretty good rundown about what women's football is like inside FC 26 career mode. While I'm not saying it's going to change your life if you play this, I do think a lot of people kind of do ignore it just because of what they think women's football is like. But because EA doesn't really represent football that accurately, the version you get in the game is probably actually closer to real life football than the men's side, which I think is absolutely crazy. If you've got any suggestions for teams you think people should try or saves that you really like in the women's game, leave them in the comments below. But thank you so much for watching. Thanks for everyone who's gone over to my second channel as well and checked out those videos. I really do appreciate that, and I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.